Hello everyone, my name is Kumar and welcome back to our channel Kumar Programming. In our previous session, we have configured our auth.js. We created our config and inside this config we have given page, we have defined our session, we have defined our adapter and we have added provider. As of now, we are going ahead with the credential provider, but here we can add multiple provider like Google, Facebook, other provider that we can add over here. Also, we have added callbacks and also we have exported our handlers, auth, sign in, sign out functions from our next auth, right? And these functions are going to be used in our sign in page, right? Now in this session, we are going to work on sign in and sign out, where we are going to create a schema and we are going to create actions. Then we are going to hook up those actions to our sign in form, right? So now let's start. Let's flip to the Visual Studio. First of all, we will create our sign in form schema. So inside our lib folder, here we have our validator, right? Inside the validator, we have written our insert product schema, right? Now here we are going to write our sign in form schema. In our sign in form, we are going to have two parameters taken as a email and password, right? So here export const sign in form schema, right? Equal to get.object, right? And inside this we are going to pass our object, right, with email and password. Email, and this would be z.string, right? And then we will be chaining with email, since this is an email, right? So this would be, if in case of any invalid email address, here we would be writing a message as an invalid email address, right? Now the second thing we are going to have as password, right? And this would be z string, and minimum we would be having at length for this at least 6 password, right? And here we are going to give message as a password must be at least 6 characters, okay, right? That's all we need in our sign in form schema. Now we are going to create our server actions for our sign in and sign out. So if you remember that we have created our previous server actions inside our actions folder here. Now create another action file over here inside our actions folder. So here let's create another file as user.actions.ts, right? And inside this user actions, we remember that in order to make the actions, first of all, we have to use server, right? Use server. Then only we can create our server actions, right? So here we are going to create two actions, one for sign in and another for sign out, right? So let's create for sign in here. Sign in user with credentials, right? And second one we are going to use as a sign out user, right? So now let's create first for sign in. Export, the function would be async, right? So it would be async, and we will write here function. Here I'll give the function name as sign in with credentials, right? Sign in with credentials, right? And inside this function, we are going to pass two parameters. Why two parameters? Because once we are going to create our sign-in page, in that sign-in page, we are going to use a new hook as use action state. And once we are going to submit our form with that hook, it's required two parameters as previous state and form data, right? So here we are going to have as previous state. That is the one parameter. I'll give type as unknown, and the second parameter would be form data, right? That would be type of form data, right? And now inside this function, we will have our try catch block, right? And inside this try block, we are going to use our sign in form schema, right? Which we have created here. Const user equal to, we are going to use our sign in form schema, right? And if you see here, it's got imported from our validator, and inside this schema, first of all, we will parse and we will pass our email and password here. Email would be from form data, right? Form data dot get, and we are going to get the value of email, right? And the second parameter which we have as password, right? So here we will have password, right? And this form dot get dot, because these two value we are getting it from form data, right? So now here we have our email and password. Now we are going to sign in the user. So we are going to use our next auth functions which we have exported, right? If you remember that here in our auth, see here this function, we have sign in, sign out function we have exported. So we are going to use this function. So we are going to call our sign in function, and this sign in function is coming from our auth, right? Next auth. And in this sign in function, we are going to pass first parameter as credentials because we are using our credential provider, right? And the second parameter which we are going to pass as user, right? So this would be a async function. So we are going to use await, right? And once user will authenticated successful, we will return a message as return success true, right? And we are going to return message as user authenticated successfully, okay, or signed in successfully, okay. And now inside this error, first of all we will check if error is redirect error, right? So if is redirected error, right? If it's true, then we will just throw this error and get it handled by Next.js itself, right? And we will return success false, right? Also, we will return message as invalid email or password. And we don't have to specifically mention like if it is matching with email or password, that could be a security issues. So we'll just give a common message invalid email or password, right? So user won't be able to know that if it's a email or password are invalid, right? Since we don't allow to the user to check if certain email is registered or not, right? So that's all for the sign in. Now we are going to work with the sign out. So sign out would be very simple. We have to just call our sign out function from our this auth. So we just have to call these sign out functions. Okay. Now let's quickly call this function. So here I'm going to create another function as export async function as sign out user, right? And simply we are going to call our sign out, right? And this is going to be await because we are having this function as async, right? That's it. Now this sign out function is going to taken care of removing the session and invalidating the cookies. All right. So now we have our actions, sign in with credentials and sign out user. And now we are going to use these actions in our sign in page. So we are going to create our sign in page. So here inside our app folder, we are going to create another group similarly like root group, right? So here we'll create another group as auth in our round bracket auth, right? Once we are putting anything inside the round bracket, it doesn't mean that it's route, right? It's just a grouping, right? So now here inside this, we are going to create a layout file as layout.tsx, okay? And we are going to copy this layout from root. I'll copy this. I'll use inside our auth layout, right? And here we are not going to use our header and footer here, and we will remove this header and footer, and we are going to rename this as auth layout, okay? And here we are not going to use this main, and we will change it as a flex center because the sign in screen which we want in a center, right? And we will give this min height of screen, so it's going to take the complete height of the screen, and I'll give width full, okay? Now our auth layout is ready. So once we are going to put any page inside this auth group, it's going to use this auth layout, okay? And now inside this auth, we are going to create another folder as sign in, right? This is going to be route, right? So our root URL and after that sign in, right? If you see here inside our auth, we have given this slash sign in, right? So it's going to be slash sign in here. Now page.tsx, right? Now here we are going to create a stateless function component as sign in page, okay? And inside this, I'll use this React fragmentation, and inside this, I'll just write sign in page, okay? Now what we can do, we can just test it quickly. Now here, if we just write our sign in, right? So it should redirect to the sign in page, right? Now if you see here in the center, we are able to see the sign in page. Now we are going to work on sign in page. Now first of all, we want to give the page title as sign in. So here we will export our metadata, export const metadata would be type of metadata, right? That is getting imported from Next, right? And in this metadata, we are going to pass our title, right? And title would be sign in. Great. Now if I just save this, now here we can see our title as sign in and application name, right? Now further we are going to design our sign in page. So here inside our return, here we are going to create a div as width full dot width full. Also we have maximum width medium, max WMD. Also we have MX auto, right? Now inside this div, now let's use our card component here. We are using our ShadCN card component, right? So see here, this card component is imported. Now here, this card, and inside this card, we are going to have our card header and card content, right? So here we have our card header. Another one we have card content, right? Card content. Now in this card header, we are first of all we have to give our logo, right? So we are going to use the same logo which we are using in our not found, right? So we are going to use this, and once user will click on that particular logo, it will redirect to the home page, right? So we will put this image inside our link. So here we will have our link, and link would be imported from next link, right? And inside this we are going to give this image, okay? And this image also needs to be imported from next image, okay? So here we will give image, and this would be imported from next image, right? And this link would be having attribute as href, and this would be home route, okay? And we will give class name as flex center, okay? Right? And we are going to import this app name from our constant, so from lib constant, right? And right after this we are going to have our card title, okay? Card title, class name would be text center, and inside this we would be having sign in, okay? And after that we are going to have our card description. So this would be card description, right? And inside this card description we are going to write as sign in to your account, okay? Right? And after that, inside our card content we are going to have our sign in form. So here we will have our credential sign in form, because as of now we are using credential provider. So here we will have our credential sign in form, right? Save it and let's see. So now if you see here, we are able to see our logo, sign in as a title, and description as a sign in your account, right? Now we are going to create our credential sign in form. So this sign in page is going to be work as a server component, and we are going to create this credential sign in form as a client component, and using that client component inside our server component, right? So now let's do that. Now we can make this sign in component inside our component folder here, but this sign in component is going to be specific in sign in page only. So we are going to create inside our sign in. So here I'm going to create another file as credentials sign in form.tsx, and here inside this we are going to use our sfc stateless function component, and here credentials sign in form, right? And here I'll use this React fragmentation, and here sign in form, okay? And now we are going to use this credential sign in form inside our sign in page, right? So I'll replace this and we will import it from our credential sign in form, right? We will give a hyphen over here, sign in form, okay? And this would be now sign in form. Great. Now let's see if it is coming. Yep, we are seeing our sign in form, right? And now we are going to use this component as a client component, so we must have to write use client. Now this component is become as a client component, and we can use now all of our React hook and all, right? Now here we will replace with the form, and inside this form we are going to have a div. I'll give the class name as space y6. So it's going to be having a space at the y-axis, and inside this we are going to have our email ID and password, right? So now we will take another div here, and inside this div we are going to use, so we don't have label component, right? So let's quickly install our label component. So here we have ShadCN label, right? Here we have command to add the label component, right? So now let's open this, open another terminal. Let's add it, and we will add one more component as input. Okay, so here we have input. Now let's use this, copy this as well and add it. Yes, so it's asking install to ShadCN Canary. So we'll press Y. Yes, proceed. And we are going to use our legacy peer depths, right? And similarly, we are going to add our input as well. Fine. So we have added our label as well as input component both, right? Now we can utilize these both of the components, label, and this label would be coming from component UI label, right? Now see, this label imported from component UI label, and this label would be HTML for email. And let's close this, our label tag, right here, email. Now we are going to use our input component. So here input, and we will give ID as email, name also we will give email, and type would be email, right? And this would be a required field, and autocomplete equal to email, right? Now let's close this input tag and import this input tag from our ShadCN component, right? This component UI input, right? Now we should be seeing our, see, now here we are seeing our email, and we are seeing this our text box. Now here I want to set the default value, and we are going to take this default value from our constant. So inside these constants, I'm going to take another variable over here, export const sign in default value, right? And this would be having email and password, right? So suppose that if you want to test your application, you can put any value over here and you can test it, right? But for the time being, I'm putting it as a blank. Now let's use this sign in default value inside our credential sign in form component. Okay, so here sign in default value dot email, right? And we will import it. This is going to be imported from lib constant, right? Now similarly we will do it for password as well. So we are going to copy this div completely, and we are going to paste it over here, and this would be password, right? And here HTML for password, ID would be password, name also password, and type would be password, right? And autocomplete would be password, and default value will be password, right? Now see, yep, we are seeing our email and password. Now let's give our sign in button. So now for the button, right after this, we are going to give another div, and inside this div we are going to take button component, and we will give the class name for this button as width full, and I'll give variant as default, right? And we will close this button tag. Okay, and inside this button tag we are going to use our sign in text, and we are going to import this button our ShadCN component, right? And right after this we are going to take another div for sign up link. Okay, so here div dot text small dot text center and text muted. Okay, text muted foreground. Fine. And inside this div we are going to give the text as don't have account, don't have an account, sign up link. Okay, so here we will give link, and we will give attribute href as sign up. Okay, this page we are going to build later on, and here we will give target as self underscore self. Okay, and we will give class name as link. Okay, class name link, and we are going to close this tag, and inside this tag we are going to write sign up text. Okay, and we are going to import this link from next link, right? Now let's save it, and this is showing don't. Okay, so it would be something like this, right? Oh, so it's not taking this one, so we can give and a pause symbol and t, right? It should be working fine. Now let's see here, it's I think we are having a lot of space here, right? In all those components. So let's reduce our space here. Here we have 8, right? We will reduce it as 4. Okay. Let's see now. Save it. And yeah, I think this is good, right? Now we should be having some space over here in between link and this text, right? So let's give here a space, right? Now let's save it. Yeah, now it looks good. Okay, so once we'll click on sign up, it should redirect to on sign up page. Yeah, sign up page. Obviously we are not having sign up page so far. Okay, now let's sign in. Yep, now it's redirecting to the sign in page. Now we are going to hook up this sign in page with our server actions which we have created. If you remember that at the beginning of this today's session, see here, this is our user action. We have created sign in with credential and sign out user, right? So we are going to import this action inside our sign in component. So here import credential from at lib. Under lib we have actions, and then we have our user actions, right? Now here we are going to use two new React hook. So first one is import use action state from our React, right? And second one is import form status from React DOM. Okay. Now we are going to use these two hooks. So here inside our credentials sign in form, so const data and action, right? From use action state, right? And we are going to pass our server action inside this action state, right? And second thing, we are going to pass our default value for our action state, right? So here we are having success. By default we are going to give it as a false, and message by default we have as a blank, right? So what will happen once we will submit our form, if user is successfully signed in, then data.success is going to be true and data.message would be signed in successfully, right? And if there is any problem during our authentication, then this data.success would be false and message would be invalid email or password, right? Since that's what we are returning from our, see here we are returning our success true and message sign in successfully, and in case of error we are returning success false and invalid email or password, right? And also we want to show the error message to the user. So what we will do here, right after this our sign in button, we are going to check if data and data.success is false. Then we are going to create a div and we will give the class name to this div as text center and text destructive. Okay, right? And simply we are going to write our message inside this div. Okay, data.message. Save it. Now let's make this sign in button more interactive. So once user will try to sign in, then we will see this text as a signing in. Okay, so what we will do here we are going to create another component, const sign in button, right? And we are going to write our fat arrow function over here, and inside this fat arrow function we are going to use our use form status hook, const pending use form status, right? So this hook is going to return pending is true once user is trying to submit the form. Okay, and now here we will be returning from this component as return as a button component. So what I'll just copy this button component from here, right? And I'll check this pending status over here. Here I'll give as pending. If it is pending, then we are going to show the message as signing in, else we are going to show the message at sign in. Okay, so we are going to use this text and we will make this button as disabled once it is pending. Okay, provide the value of pending, right? And we are going to replace this sign in button component with our this sign in button, right? So now everything looks good. Yeah, see this action, we are having this action, right? So we are going to pass this action to our form here, right? So now let's quickly check if it's working fine. So here we will give some email ID which is not exist, test@test.com. This is not existing, right? Here we will give some random password. And just notice over here at the sign in button, see now it's got disabled while we are signing in. Since we are using invalid email password, so we got error message as invalid email or password, right? That's great, it's working fine. Now before providing the correct credentials, I want to do some changes. Once user is successfully authenticated, then it should redirect it to the home page, right? So now let's do the changes quickly. Here inside our page.tsx at our server page, right? Here we are going to import our auth, right? You remember that we have created our auth here. See this inside auth file. Here we have auth, right? So now we are going to use this auth. Now here import auth from, so this is at the root directory. So here we have then auth, right? It would be coming directly from auth. And one more thing that we have to import our redirect. So we are going to import redirect from next navigation. Okay, next navigation. Yep. So we are going to use this auth and redirect. So simply in our server component here, we are going to create a session, const session, and we are going to use auth, right? And this auth is a sync function, so we are going to use await. And once we are having this await function, we must have to make this component as asynchronous, right? So we are going to write as a async. Okay, now save it. And if we are having this session, so now we are going to check this session. If we have this session, then simply we are going to return redirect, okay, to the home page, right? Let's save it. Okay, so that's all. Now let's quickly see. Now we know that we have our admin@admin.com, right? This is the correct user ID and password is 123456, right? Now let's sign in. So if it's successful authenticated, yeah, now user is successful authenticated and it's redirected to the home page. Now if you right click here and inspect it, and inside this application, now you would be able to see the cookie, right? So see here, now we are seeing this cookie. See this auth callback URL and this session token, right? So this token is getting generated here, right? So now it's working fine, right? So whatever we have done so far, everything is working perfect, right? Now if I'll click on this sign in page, we should redirect to our home page only, right? Because we are checking our page, our sign in page, if session is available or not. So session is available, so we are not able to redirect to the sign in page, right? Now if we want to delete our cookies, so since we have not implemented sign out so far, so I'm just going to delete these cookies. Let's clear this, right? Now if I just click on sign in, we are able to redirect on sign in page, right? And if we give some random email ID password over here, we see the message as invalid email or password. Now I want to implement callback URL. So once user is trying to log in from any page, then after successful authentication, user will be redirected to that callback URL only, right? So here suppose that we have sign in and here we have something like that callback URL, right? And callback URL is something like this, right? So once user is successful authentication, it should redirect to this callback URL, this order page. Okay, now let's quickly implement it. So what we will do here on our sign in page, here we are going to pass a prop, and inside these props we are going to have search parameter, search as search params, right, which is going to be a type of promise and which is going to have callback URL, right? Callback URL. This would be the parameter name type of string. Okay, this would be params. Okay, now let's make it in a single line, right? Let's save it. So now once we have these our props, so here simply we can deserialize const callback URL. This callback URL is going to be deserialized from await props dot search params, right? This search params, right? Now we are going to have this callback URL, and once we have this callback URL, simply we have to redirect on this callback URL. And if we don't have this callback URL, then we are going to redirect to the home page. That's it, right? This is the one change. Now the second change is which we have to do on our credentials sign in form page. Here, since this is a client component, so we have to be find our search parameter in a different way by using our hook as a huge search parameter. So huge search params, right, which is from next navigation. Okay, now we are going to use this hook huge search param. Here const search params equal to this huge search params, right? Now we want to get this callback URL from the search params. So here const callback URL equal to the search params dot get callback URL, right? This callback URL. We have search parameter name as a callback URL, right? Or we are going to simply have our home page. And now simply we have to pass this callback URL inside our form as an input hidden. So here we are going to have as an input, type would be hidden, and name we will give as a callback URL, and value that we have to pass simply that callback URL, the value which we have, right? And we will close this tag. Now let's quickly verify if it's working fine. So here we will give our callback URL as a parameter, and this is going to be redirect to the order page, right? So this is encoded URL, right? Now let's put our email ID and password here, admin@admin.com, and password 123456, right? Now sign in. It should redirect to the order page. No, it's not redirecting to the order page, it's coming to the home page. Now let's see what is the issue. So here we are having our callback URL, right? We are getting this callback URL from search params callback URL. Now let's see in our server page. Here search parameter callback URL. Oh, this parameter name is different, right? See here we are using callback URL, and here we are using callback URL, right? So let's replace this with this URL. Okay, right? Now let's save it and test it once again. Now here let me remove our cookie first, clear the cookie. Now click on sign in page, it will redirect to the sign in page, and now we will pass from here callback URL, right? So now just log in from here, admin@admin.com, and password 123456, right? Now let's sign in. Now it should redirect to the order page. See, now it's redirected to the order page. Since we don't have the order page for now, so we got this page not found page. Okay, so it's working fine as expected. Now in the next section, we are going to work on sign out button. Since this session is going to be very lengthy, so I'll put this sign out functionality in the next session, right? And friends, at the end of this video, if you found this tutorial helpful, do me a favor, like this video to support me and my channel, and subscribe my channel if you haven't already done so far for more amazing videos like this, and share this to your fellow developers who might find it useful. And if you really love my work, then consider buying me a coffee to support for more free tutorials. Link is given below in the description. Alright, that's all for the day. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, take care and keep learning.